I started studying leadership long before I was a parent. In fact, probably 5 years before I even was engaged to be married, I started studying leadership. The very first leadership book I ever purchased and read was called Becoming a Person of Influence by John Maxwell. It was about the same time I read Wild at Heart and Bringing Up Boys and really began to understand the nature of boys and manhood in a way like I never had before. Better understanding who I was and why my character was the way it was, and things of that nature were very helpful for me because I just didn't grow up with a father immediate influence in my life. After I had children, and our children were old enough to be active in sports and things of that nature, we started early on with participating in the various things that they were interested in. And so we never did do soccer in our house. It just, there was no fascination for it. But we did dance. We did a little cheer. We did a little singing. We did a little drama. We raised two teenage girls. We did a lot of drama. It just wasn't all for the stage. You know what I mean, right? In addition to that, though, we did upwards basketball and upwards football. And then we went more into basketball, probably all the way into high school for the boys. The girls did dance, and as a family, we did karate for a while. But the football lasted all the way up to junior and senior years in high school. The irony was that there were times that I was on the bench as an observing parent, just watching the game happen, and with dispassionate observation, watching my kids and cheering them on and instructing them as much as I could. You know, pass the ball. I mean, Zach passed the ball because he was quite a ball hog. But for the most part, I didn't get that riled up or involved until there were a couple of years that we had referees that didn't know the game any better than I did. And I don't know the game of basketball. I was kicked off the team when I was in the 7th grade. The coach told me, guard the post. That means stand down there by the key at the free throw line. And no matter what happens, when this kid starts driving the ball, if he breaks away from everybody else, you keep him from making that shot. Well, he hit the top of a key on a simple layup. I didn't have the leaps or the athleticism to get to the ball, so I put an elbow in his rib cage. Took him out of the game, took him out of the tournament, took him off the team for a season, and I got a technical foul, and that was when the coach said, you need to stick with football, you're way too violent for basketball. And I've played nothing but pickup games since then. So when it comes to understanding the rules and the opportunities and the little things that you learn playing basketball, I didn't ever learn any of those. So I saw some obnoxious things like a kid who would get himself trapped and realize I don't have anybody to pass the ball to, and this Zach kid is all over me like stink on poo. I can't throw it around him. I can't get the ball out, and I'm going to get penalized for holding the ball too long. And so they would throw the ball at him and make it bounce out of bounds. And of course, he was the last one to touch it, so the ball was out on him, and they would just get another chance to try again. And there was one kid in a game who did that about a dozen times. Every time Zach would cover him, and he would realize, I can't get a shot off, I can't get the pass off, this kid is all over me like Velcro. He would throw the ball at Zach and make it go out of bounds. And about halfway through the first period, I got sick of that nonsense. And I'm like, look, if the kid can't manage the ball, throwing it at somebody else to force it to go out of bounds, bouncing it off of his foot, throwing it at his knee. Number one, he can injure him from 4 feet away throwing a basketball at the back of his knee. But number two, learn how to play the game better. That's ridiculous. Okay, it's not technically cheating, but it's really kind of sad. I got a little frustrated. And the fact that the ref would stand there and watch it happen and then blow the whistle and say, it's their ball, I'm like, really? You saw how that just happened. That's the weakest excuse for a pass I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't even an attempt. But the coaches at that level, the refs at that level, were just kind of like, well, that's what they do in the NBA. And so they would move on with it. And I began to get a little bit vocal, just as a sideline parent. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, I have quite a big voice, and it carries. It's got just the right tenor and reverberance to really fill a gymnasium. And when I get excited and I shout, it really carries. And they actually asked me. Now, remember, this is upwards basketball. We played in the gym at the First Baptist Church, and they threw me out of the building. They told me to leave. Now, I was frustrated. I was irritated. I was sick of the childish behavior. I was sick of the way that they treated each other. But it was still just that level of frustration. There was no violence. There was no name calling. There was no accusations of who their mother might be. None of that kind of stuff. It was just loud voice correction. And I was kicked out. Now, remember, this was a dozen plus years ago that my kids were at the age to play upward basketball. Today, things have escalated quite a bit when you watch parents. Just try it for kicks. I did before I started this video blog. By the way, this particular video is at request. As a leadership coach, as a parent, and as a sports coach, although not an illustrious one, I was asked by Parenting Teenagers Online to produce this video and just discuss the topic of parents behaving badly. So that's exactly what I searched in YouTube, parents behaving badly. And there are pages upon pages upon pages, thousands of videos, some of them 2 to 3 minute clips, of course, some of them longer compilations, but most of them 2 to 3 minutes of someone's mom or dad behaving in an absolutely unbearable behavior, an unbearable way. Their behavior is lewd, it's violent, it's vicious. I saw video clips of dads running across the football field, tackling the coach of the opposing team, and ground and pounding his face right there on the side of the field. Well, that's a little traumatic if you're an 8-year-old cheerleader on the sideline, or someone's younger sibling. You might think, I never want to play sports if it can come to that. I thought we were just scoring goals. Soccer teams, where the entire team clears the bench to fight with the other team, and they're all 12. I heard from sports medicine specialists that said there are kids younger and younger every year with growth plate tears and torn tendons and knee joints that will never be right again before they even reach junior high school. Kids in high school with concussions and daily frequent migraine headaches, memory loss, mood swings. One young man he talked about had had his 5th concussion before his first day of junior high school from tackle football. Now, there's a tough balance being a parent in the stand and seeing these coaches that obviously don't even understand the game, and these refs, and obviously they are blind. They didn't see that foul that happened to your kid, but they seem to see every time your kid fouls somebody else, every time there's a penalty opportunity, it's like they're looking to throw a flag at your child, looking to call a penalty on them, right? I can also tell you, having stood on the sidelines as the coach, just how much fun it is to have parents who are like, let my kid in the game. How come my kid's not the star? How come your kid's always on the field? Right? It's an amazing balance, an emotional Tetris, if you will, to put together all the players on the team, understanding some have a great passion to be there and to be on the team, and some are on the field because mom and dad don't want to have to pay for college. Mom and dad are thoroughly convinced that because little Johnny was 14 pounds at birth, that he's going to be 6'6" and 400 pounds when he's 20. And that should mean a starting position on the front line of any offensive team, and maybe even the Dallas Cowboys. But the reality is, some of those big fellas, they don't want to hit anybody. They don't even want to play the game. They'd rather play Xbox or write a book. And when you put all of those personalities together in one place, and you've got this guy over here is like a Cole Beasley. He's 5'2", 105 pounds, dripping wet, but he runs like lightning. And he will hit anything that moves, and some telephone poles that don't, just to prove how tough he is. And on the other end, you've got the big giant teddy bear who could flatten anybody on the field, but he won't run. And so what do you do with them? Do you put the little guy in that really has a hard time even staying on his feet or staying on the field without getting clobbered by some massive beast on the opposing team? Or do you sideline him even with all of his passion and all of his want to, because you need the big guy up front, even though he won't play hard, in order to protect your other running backs that could be superstars? It's a balance as a coach. But the desire of the parent sometimes overrides the good common sense of good coaching. What position do they play in? Well, I was a wide receiver in high school. I think my son should play wide receiver. That's what I know best. That's what I can coach him at. Yeah, great, Dad, but he's 5'2" and 105 pounds. Wide receiver's a tough position. Maybe a slot back. Maybe a halfback. Probably not going to be the best wide receiver. He can't get the ball from over the top of the head of anybody who plays cornerback. See what I'm saying? It's a challenge, whether you're the coach or you're the ref or you're the parent, to let, for lack of a better phrase, nature take its course. Why has this idea of youth sports become so drama-laced? There were a couple of conjectures in some of the videos that I watched. One had to do with the fact that, and I didn't know this, but youth sports, especially the ones that have managed to work their way into being year-round, if you're going to play the game, you've also got to go to camp first, and if you're going to go to camp, then you also got to do the off-season practices, and then you've got to be ready when the season starts to play all out. And I have friends whose young boys are 12 and 14 years old, and one of them plays in 2 or 3 different baseball leagues. That's a lot of play. That's a lot of time on the field. It's a lot of time at practice. Parents are deeply invested for their child to play in a year-round sport. Between the investment in equipment, the investment in time and practices and travel, and some of those games are not within the local community. You've got to drive. I remember driving 2 and sometimes 3 hours to a football game to play a competitive game. That's a commitment. It's a commitment on the part of the parents. And when the parents see I'm making this commitment and I'm showing up and my kid's standing on the sideline, that doesn't make for a happy parent. And I paid the same $600 to play this game that so-and-so's parents paid. I would like to see opportunity for my child to be on the field so I can at least take a photo of him in his uniform, right? So there's a time commitment that's massive in youth sports today. Some kids play multiple sports. I can't imagine what that's like. With soccer in one season, tennis in another, baseball in another, football in another, basketball, the list goes on and on and on. It's very complicated, very expensive. At some point, you just got to, pick your sport, because I can only afford so many. I only have so many after-hours work, or after-work hours that I can commit to being there. So many Saturdays, so many Sundays that I can give up to be on the sideline or in the stands or at the court. And so helping children to pick that is a very important part of parenting. Helping them to excel at the ones that they find fun, the ones that are enjoyable, the sports that, if they want a future in sports, not if parents want them to have a future in sports, but if the kids want a future in sports, if they look down the road and think, yeah, one day I'll play in the NFL, then help them along that pathway, but don't berate them if they change their mind. Don't abuse them mentally, emotionally, physically, if you've invested a lot and they decide they're done. That's a challenge for any family. But when you put the strain and the stress on a 10 or a 12-year-old to be all that they can be on the football field, on the soccer field, on the baseball diamond, in the swim lane, on the tennis court, on the basketball court, when you're driving them that hard to achieve what 1 or 2% of the Earth's population will actually achieve, you may be demanding more of them than your relationship can handle. Please take that caution to heart. Also, understand that your coaches, and some of them may be like me, I'm not the brightest coach. I was able to motivate and inspire the kids and for the most part get them to do what I wanted to do, but there were guys that I coached with who played at the highest level of the game. I had a great rapport with the kids. These guys had all the technical know-how of what it takes to win the game and what it takes to be the best, and I let them have it. That relationship, though, isn't for a season. It isn't for the winning game or the losing game. It's a lifelong relationship. This is a how do I build to the next level question. How will my son and I relate when football season is over? Not just this season. When the season of his life is done, whether it's by injury, by choice, by conciliation that I'm not going to make it in the college game, I'm not going to make it in the pros, so I got better things to invest my time in. When that season comes, will my relationship with my child still be intact? Will it be better off? Will we have found something that we bonded over? Will we have been influenced by a game to grow together or to grow apart? See, the last time I checked, the initial intent of youth sports, organized sports, was to get young people together to teach them valuable life lessons like camaraderie, team support, team spirit, dedication, loyalty, compassion for one another, bonding in ways that pretty much nothing else does until you find a team to gather around. A rallying cry, someone, something, some reason bigger and greater than yourself to fight for, to give your all. That's what youth organized sports is supposed to be about. Whether it's upward, where they intentionally don't keep score because it's about playing the game and learning the skills and not about whether you win or lose. Or it's just something that gets them moving physically, something athletically. Martial arts is a good thing, in my opinion, because it teaches the disciplines, but it also teaches good physical movement, how to move without snapping a joint of your own, how to stretch your body so that it can move, how to get some rigorous exercise. All of those things are very important for young people. Martial arts, generally speaking, is not a team sport, so there's a lot of individualism that's taught into it, a lot of self. And if you're not careful, while they may become very capable of defending themselves and very athletic, they will become very isolated. Every one of those different levels and opportunities of sports, organized sports and organized athletics, give opportunity for different personality styles, different athletic abilities, different age ranges. And in the end, I'm still going to ask the same question. Did you influence the sport and the team, or did the team and the sport influence you? And was it for the better? Did it add value to you? And one final note, we have reached a place, like many other things in our, especially American society, where money drives everything. There are teams out there where it's $500 or $600 just to pay to be on the team, and then you still have to buy your uniforms and your sports memorabilia and your class ring and your uniform and your pads and the special kind of helmet if you want an upgraded helmet, or if you want the upgraded, soccer cleats, or you want the best kind of shin guards, and the list goes on and on and on. Last I heard, the youth sports industry is a $5.8 billion industry. That's a lot of money if the best outcome we can expect are parents behaving badly and injured children. Something's got to give. Somehow, we need parents and children to come back to the core of the purpose of organized youth sports. We need to focus on teamwork and camaraderie. We need to build unity. We need to learn to play well and play nicely together as parents in the stands and kids on the field. For Parenting Teenagers Online, I am J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.